I never thought I'd become addicted to watching my own heart break. But here I am, replaying the moment over and over again. A moment I wish I could erase, but can't stop reliving. I recorded my wife cheating on me, and I can't bring myself to look away. A couple of weeks back, I decided to surprise my wife. With the stress of life and kids, I wanted to give her, and us, a break. I called my parents, who live about an hour and a half away, and they were thrilled to take the kids for the weekend. The plan was perfect. A night free from responsibilities, just the two of us. That Friday, I left to drop off the kids at my parents'. After a long drive and a warm family goodbye, I was back in our neighborhood by 12:30, earlier than she expected. As I turned onto our street, my headlights illuminated a strange sight. A dark, unfamiliar truck parked right in front of our house. A small warning bell went off in my head, but I brushed it aside. People park on our street all the time. Instead of pulling into the driveway, I parked a few houses away, planning to slip into the house quietly and surprise her. I entered through the basement door and made my way upstairs with soft, careful steps. But halfway up, I froze. I could hear noises, familiar yet completely foreign in my own home. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was alone, having a quiet, personal moment. I almost turned around to give her privacy. But then, a deep voice broke through the silence, unmistakable. A voice that didn't belong in my house. In that instant, my heart felt like it would tear right out of my chest. It's hard to describe the sensation, that swirling mix of dread, disbelief, and rage. I stood frozen, trying to gather the courage, or maybe just the willpower, to confirm what I feared. Slowly, I climbed the remaining steps, each one echoing louder in my head than in the silent house. As I reached the top, I saw the kitchen was empty, but I could hear them in the living room, lost in each other. There was no way to see them without stepping into view. So I took out my phone, opened the camera app, and, with a shaking hand, held it just around the corner. I caught everything on screen. The woman I'd loved, trusted, married, with someone else. Images that burned deep into my mind. I felt my hands tremble, but somehow I managed to hit record. I told myself I needed proof, that I'd need this video to know it wasn't a nightmare. So I kept recording, even as I felt my entire world shatter on the tiny screen in my hand. After a few minutes, they stopped. She whispered something to him about moving upstairs, saying they still had plenty of time. I heard them walk toward the bedroom. As their footsteps faded, I found myself standing in the hollow quiet of the living room, feeling like a ghost. That's when I noticed his pants on the floor. I walked over, numb, and rifled through his pockets until I found his wallet. I took photos of his driver's license, his name, his address, all the proof I needed that he was real, that he was here. I left the house just as quietly as I'd come in. I got into my car and sat there paralyzed. I pulled up the video, half hoping it hadn't recorded, but there it was. I watched every painful second. 30 minutes passed before I could move. I couldn't face my parents yet. They'd see something was wrong immediately. So I decided to go back to act like I'd come home to surprise her. I needed a moment to process, to understand what I'd just seen. When I finally pulled into the driveway, I made sure to make noise, giving her time to cover any evidence. When she came downstairs, wrapped in a bathrobe, she looked genuinely shocked, asking me why I was home so early. I told her about my plans, trying to force a smile as she poured us both a glass of wine. We sat on the couch, and she was almost affectionate, like nothing had happened. But I could see, out of the corner of my eye, her lover slipping quietly down the basement stairs and out of sight. I said nothing, letting her continue to play her part, even letting her pull me close. I felt like I was outside myself, watching it all unfold, detached and hollow. The days crawled by, each one an agonizing exercise in restraint. I went through the motions of my life, work, chores, and fatherhood. while carrying a secret so poisonous it burned inside me. Each night I returned to that video, replaying it obsessively, dissecting every detail like a detective searching for clues. The betrayal was so raw that it felt fresh each time, the wound refusing to heal. Finally, her birthday approached. She'd been dropping hints about wanting to throw a small gathering for friends, something intimate and low-key. It was the perfect opportunity, one I hadn't even considered until the idea took root in my mind like a twisted kind of justice. Her birthday would be the stage, her friends would be the audience, and she, the star of the show. The plan took shape slowly, every detail calculated. I set up my laptop and connected it to the living room TV, testing and retesting to ensure everything would go smoothly. The recording was set to play with a single click, queued up and ready. My heart raced with each passing day, a mix of anger, anticipation, and a disturbing satisfaction at the thought of exposing her lies. The evening of the party arrived, and our house filled with laughter and light. Her friends gathered in our living room, clinking glasses and sharing stories, oblivious to the storm about to hit. Lily was radiant, her smile wide and genuine as she basked in the attention. Watching her laughing and carefree, I felt a twisted surge of bitterness, like I was seeing a stranger parading around in my wife's skin. I waited until everyone had gathered around the cake. The lights dimmed, the mood festive. My hands shook slightly as I lifted my glass, calling for a toast. To my beautiful wife, Lily, I began, my voice steady but cold, carrying a tone that everyone, including Lily, took as sincerity. She smiled at me, eyes sparkling, completely unaware of what was coming next. I want to share something special, something that speaks to the depth of our relationship. I picked up the remote with one hand, subtly flicking my thumb over the button that would start the video on the TV. My eyes locked with Lily's, and I saw confusion flicker across her face as she realized I wasn't turning on a slideshow or family video. The TV screen went black for a second, then flickered to life, showing the dimly lit living room from the perspective of my phone camera. Gasps rippled through the room as her friends watched the figures on the screen. The silhouette of a man and a woman wrapped around each other, locked in a passionate embrace. Lily's face drained of color as the realization hit her. She opened her mouth, but no words came out, her eyes wide with terror. A silence fell over the room, thick and heavy, broken only by the sounds of shocked murmurs from her friends, some of whom looked away, embarrassed, while others watched, transfixed. I let the video play for several excruciating moments, each second driving the point home. Finally, I clicked the remote and the screen went dark, the silence ringing in our ears. Lily's friends shifted uncomfortably, and one of them, the one she'd always confided in the most, turned away, visibly horrified. My wife stood frozen, looking between me and the screen, her lips trembling as she tried to find something to say, anything to explain the unexplainable. I took a slow, steady breath, feeling the weight of everything I'd bottled up finally beginning to lift. "I thought you should all know," I said, my voice barely a whisper, but filled with a quiet, deadly rage. "This is who she really is." I turned to Lily, locking eyes with her, and she broke down, the full force of the moment crashing over her. She stammered, reaching for me, but I stepped back, unwilling to let her touch me. "Please, it's not what it looks like," she whispered, desperation coloring every syllable. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I shot back, unable to keep the contempt from my voice. "You brought another man into our home, Lily. You betrayed me, not just in some distant way, but in the very house where we built our lives, where we're raising our children." The weight of those words settled over her, and she slumped, defeated, as her friends looked on, silent witnesses to the carnage of our marriage. One by one, they began to leave, casting uncomfortable glances at me and avoiding eye contact with her. The last friend lingered by the door, as if wanting to offer comfort, but eventually slipped away, leaving us in the empty house. Once the door closed, a crushing silence enveloped us. She tried again to speak, her voice hoarse and broken. "Please, we can fix this. I'm so sorry." "No," I cut her off. "We can't fix this. You destroyed it." With that, I turned and walked out, leaving her standing alone in the darkened room. The weight of her betrayal pressed down on me, but for the first time since that night, I felt a small sense of relief. The next few days were a blur of paperwork, legal consultations, and emotionally grueling confrontations. I filed for divorce that very week, laying out the details and presenting the evidence I'd gathered. The video left no room for doubt, and when we went before the court, the judge took one look at it and deemed her actions as unforgivable harm to the sanctity of our family. It was a bitter process, but the court ruled in my favor, awarding me custody of our children and full ownership of the house. Lily's affair, her recklessness in bringing a stranger into our lives, had cost her everything. I watched her crumble under the weight of it, her tearful apologies falling on deaf ears. In the end, she was left with nothing but the shattered pieces of our marriage, and the knowledge that she had done this to herself. I moved forward, day by day, rebuilding my life from the wreckage. The kids stayed with me, adjusting to the changes with a resilience I admired. They asked questions, of course, but I spared them the details, telling them only that their mother and I had grown apart. I wanted to protect them from the ugliness, from the pain that still haunted me every night. As time passed, I deleted the video, finally freeing myself from the cycle of torment. It took months, maybe years, but I began to heal. The memories softened, the anger faded, and slowly, a sense of peace crept back into my life. Lily, I heard, moved away. She kept a distance, only visiting the kids occasionally under supervised arrangements. Each time she looked at me, there was a silent understanding, a knowledge that we were forever bound by her betrayal, and that it would haunt her far longer than it ever haunted me. In the end, I let go of the anger, the resentment, and even the pain. I learned to live again, to trust and to love, not with the reckless abandon I once had, but with a quiet confidence that I would never allow anyone to hurt me like that again. The memory of that night, of the video and the fallout, lingered in the recesses of my mind. But it no longer controlled me. I had taken back my life, rebuilt my family, and carved out a future free from the shadow of betrayal. And for that, I was grateful.
If you found this story gripping, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more intense and eye-opening stories just like this one. And remember, your support means everything. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.